Meeting of the Union County Board of Adjustments, April the 13th, 2015 to order. Our first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of our minutes from our September 8th, 2014 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B is approval of minutes from the October 13th, 2014 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C, we got communication that those minutes are not ready yet, so we will pass on item C. Item D, we have the approval of the minutes from the March 9th, 2015 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to be approved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Susie, did you get all those first and seconds? Good job. All right, determination of quorum. I believe we have a full board, 5 of us here tonight. This time we will open a public hearing. It's item A, determination of any conflicts of interest for special use permits 2015-002. Does any board member have a conflict with this item that you know of at this time? Okay, hearing none. Move on to item B, which is the petition. I'll read the petition. Special use permit 2015-002, Jessica Blair Thompson requesting a special use under section 25.010 and section 80.110 of the Union County Development Ordinance to construct and operate a dog kennel located at Indian Trail Fairview Road, 7300 block, being on tax map 07-018-014A, presently zoned RA 40. Mr. King, if you could come forward, please, and be sworn. You swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir. Is the petition complete?
It is.
Okay, if you could just hold on a second. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to hear the petition.
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to hear the petition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. King, if you could come and give us a presentation on the findings of fact thus far in your report.
Alrighty, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Adjustment. Tonight, as we stated, we've only got one special use permit that's being presented. The location is Indian Trail Fairview Road. It's in the 7300 block. The applicant is Blair Thompson. Property owner is Marjorie Weaver. Ms. Thompson has got the property under contract currently. She's looking to open up a dog kennel on the property under animal services. Property, this is an overview right here. There's Fairview Indian Trail Road right there. This is kind of on the western edge of the county. It's surrounded mostly by wooded property across the street and also to the east and to the south. To the west, it does have some development there. There's two single-family residential homes right beside it, and then where you see in the back where the long driveway is, that appears as another a business use located right there. Property is zoned by RA40 zoning, which you can see in the green. To the south of the property is the city of Indian Trail. Oops. This is given some illustrations of the proposed kennel. The top left hand is a conceptual drawing. Is to look like a barn. Ms. Thompson has informed staff that it will not have the number of windows that this conceptual drawing has in it, so that they can reduce the noise to adjacent property owners. They are also going to be constructing the barn with these acoustic panels here. And she's got some more information that she can present to the board as far as those acoustic panels. But in the application, it was saying that at the outside of the property, that the sound level would be. I'm sorry. That sound level should not exceed 65 decibels, which is a typical sound level for just a normal human conversation. Below there is a conceptual site plan. It's very hard to see in this illustration, so I printed out some extra copies off for the board. But looking at the site plan is drawn to scale, showing the location of the building. There's going to be a 80 by 200 fenced-in area for the dogs to roam and run around. The building is going to be set off of the eastern property line by 30 foot. Now, the ordinance only requires a 15-foot side yard. She's proposing to double that width there, and also putting some supplemental screening or hedgerow along that that's 6 foot in height, and another hedgerow on the opposing side of the building as well. Like the property itself is very heavily wooded. This the applicant is proposing to save 70% of the trees on the property as well. One thing with this request. In the zoning ordinance under supplemental regulations, there are no regulations specific to a dog kennel or animal services. Therefore, through the special use permit process, the applicant needs to provide the board and illustrate to the board that the use in question would be harmonious with the surrounding area and also would not affect adjacent property owners as far as property values. Staff recommendations. Well, staff, again, would like to see that the applicant could prove to the board that this request is in harmony with the surrounding area. Staff recommends that at least 50% of the trees be saved on the property. Current tree retention only requires trees to be saved in the required side yards, rear yards, and front yards. So with saving trees throughout the property is definitely above and beyond what our ordinance calls for. And that with any action taken on this plan, the action taken shall be towards the use itself, that the site plan is conceptual in nature, and that a much more site-specific plan shall be submitted to the planning staff for review for full compliance with all zoning regulations. Going to the tree preservation and the supplemental screening requirements, because of the possible intensity of the use here, it would require a type S2 screening. Because of the heavily woodedness there, that would be supplemental screening to create an opaque buffer between the use and the adjacent property owners. With that being said, staff supports the request, provided that the applicant can prove that it is in harmony with the surrounding area, and that staff's recommendations are added as conditions of approval. The applicant is present tonight for additional questions, and staff's here to answer any questions the board may have at this time.
Can you go back to the diagram of the property, please? Go to the area, the aerial view.
The aerial view?
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
I can, if you'd like, rather, I can pull it up on the GIS.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay. Would you like for me to bring it in closer than that?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Slide it down just a hair toward the roof. Now, that way. The other way. Long building here
Chicken house.
on the 8002B over there, that big long building.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Is it a defunct chicken house? Not used.
Has any of this changed since 2010?
Yeah, these are the 2010 aerials right here.
The chicken house is no longer used.
All right. Something I wanted. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. King? All right, thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, we will ask for, Mr. King, you're gonna have to come get this probably. Anyone who would like to present evidence in support of this petition will need to come forward and be sworn. If you would like to speak in favor of the petition. Swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please come up to the podium and state your name and your address. Right here. Thank you.
My name's Jessica Blair Thompson, and I live at 1008 Bungalow Drive.
Okay, you can present any evidence you'd like to present this time.
Thank you. I'm looking to build a high-end board boarding facility. Eventually, I will add in doggy daycare, but I'm not looking to do that right away. What I want to offer to my clients is just a fun, relaxed place that they can take their dog that's not just a, chain link fenced area. So I've looked into making sure that I use all the proper building tools to make sure that the soundproofing is as minimal as possible. I do understand I can't make it 100% soundproof, but I have outsourced to a company in Ohio, and they will do a diagram of the whole building, and they have offered 104 of those sound panels, and it will absorb the barking and actually encourage the dogs not to bark, so they won't hear that echoing. It also will make it better for my employees who will be working in the facility, so it won't be as loud as it should be. But it will mark it down about 50% noise level inside the building. And then the material I want to use for the walls, the drywall is Quiet Rock. It's very well known. It snaps together, so that way no sound can seep out. It's used with mainly acoustic rooms, gymnasiums, but it on top of doing that, I also want to do the Icy Nene spray foam, and that will also help block out that sound. So with all of those tools, provided in the wall, there should not be a loud noise coming out. It should be down to about 45 to 55 decibel levels if you're standing outside the building. So it will not be loud at all. And then with all the trees, we're staying further onto the left side of the property to prevent, since there's no one on that side built, that way it will not disturb any of the neighbors. And then with the neighbors on the other side, I have 2 businesses connected to the property already. So there's a window company on the front part, and then there's another Napa Auto Parts on the back part of the property, that building that y'all see. And so with that, I don't want to be a disturbance at all. So I really have communicated with people who have worked with the dog kennels to make sure, because this is a building that I'm building not to sell, 10 years down the road. It's something that, I want to pass on to my kids, keep it in the family. So I really want to make sure it's built, with the highest quality of products that we can do.
I have a question.
Okay.
What's the number of animals that you propose to house there?
26 kennels.
26?
They're all indoor kennels. No dogs will be left outside.
So they'll just be on the outside just for exercising and running?
Yes, sir. And to use the bathroom.
Okay. What about the number of employees you have?
We'll have at a max 4.
How many dogs are there per kennel?
Depending on the size, no more than 2. If they're 2 small dogs, they may be in there, but like I said, I do want to do more of a high end. That way, they're not on top of each other.
One question. Do you have a spec sheet for the panel that you're proposing to use?
I have a copy of it if it's, they're 2 by 2, and what he's going to do is he's going to do the diagram for the builder. That way he knows where to put it to make sure that it does, because if you put them in the wrong spot, it won't be as effective. Here it is. It's 2-part. Here's the second one.
Can we have that copy, or
Oh, you can have it.
we'll enter that into evidence? Pass it around.
Well, looking, could I ask her a question?
Sure, go right ahead.
What is the closest residence in feet to where the building will be?
It's on the front of the property, and it is 237 feet away
Nearest
from.
residence? How many feet?
237. It's at the front of the property, on the front right side, if you're facing it.
questions? Ms. Thompson? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone else like to give evidence in support? Please, now's your chance, last chance. This time, anyone who would like to give evidence in opposition, I need you to come forward and be sworn. Swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you, ma'am. Let me also at this time say, if you are giving evidence, I need you to fill out this little green sheet of paper. Mr. King, get them to them. Okay, and also, I'm sorry, I'm just making some little announcements. You stand right there and we'll get right to you. There's a white sheet of paper up there, I believe. It's also available for anyone who would like to get a copy of our decision tonight, whatever our decision is. You fill this out, we will see to it that you get mailed a copy of our decision. You can do that before you leave. I just want to let you know that's there for you. Okay, ma'am, if you could state your name and your address, please.
My name is Charlotte Kaufman, and I currently live at 3002 Tremont Drive in Indian Trail. But what wasn't presented on there is that right straight across the street, we are currently building a home at 7305 Indian Trail, Fairview, which is right straight across. In fact, we actually bought our piece of property from Marjorie Weaver, the same person who owns this. My daughter and son-in-law also are building right next to us, right straight across. We moved all the way from Los Angeles in September to go to the country where it was quiet. And so we were really disappointed to hear that there was going to be a kennel right across the street, because I know that the dogs have to go outside and that there will be a lot of barking. So we are totally set back by the fact that this has been presented, because like I said, we lived in the Los Angeles area. The one thing that I know will make the dogs bark a lot is right very close in the vicinity. There's a lot of gunshots, and one especially very close there, like next door, is the black powder gun goes off. That will definitely affect dogs, and that will definitely make the dogs bark. And I know the dogs can't be inside all the time, so they're gonna have to be outside some. And when that black powder gun goes off, it's really gonna cause a lot of dog barking, and I'm sure we're gonna be able to hear it right in our neighborhood. And that's all I have.
Okay. Ma'am, could you, any questions?
Yes, the gunshots, you said a lot of gunshots in there. Why are there gunshots? Just people practicing
Yes.
target shooting, or?
Yeah, in the vicinity, yes.
Okay, does the gunshots make a lot of noise?
Well, black powder, have you ever heard black powder? I hadn't until I come to North Carolina.
Yes, ma'am.
And it rattles everything around there.
Okay, is the black powder going to make more noise than the dogs do?
It will make the dogs bark, for sure.
No,
Dogs,
that's not my question, though. Will the black powder gun be louder than the dogs barking?
well,
or-
if you have 26 dogs or 52 dogs, the dogs probably would be louder than the black powder.
Okay, but she is proposing the sound panels to
Right,
go
but they have
in.
to go outside, right? To go to the bathroom and stuff. Well, I don't have control over the black powder since I don't live there just yet, but we have heard it there.
Now, what about
So
the
I
other
can only
gunshots?
report to that.
Now, what about the
Well,
other
that's
gunshots?
wooded area, so I don't know the hunting. I'm sorry, I don't know your rules of hunting and stuff here. But,
So there's not like a shooting range, you're just saying
no,
random shooting.
wooded area, and I'm assuming certain people apparently have, they like guns. I guess North Carolina, I'm sure play with guns if they, have. I came from the country in the Midwest, and I know that there's Los
Have you heard a
Angeles
lot of-
didn't have guns.
Have you heard a lot of gun shooting other than the black powder?
Well, especially during, I think they said there was hunting season or something, you know, but I haven't recently heard those.
Now, can I ask, are you already in your property there, or are you just still building your property?
We just, this week, got the foundation, the footings and the foundation is put in. And right beside us, we bought 10 acres right straight across the way, and we split it with my daughter and her husband, and we split 5 acres. So we're currently they're putting the electric in today and things like that. So we're just currently starting the building process.
So from your point, you don't live there yet, but when you've been visiting, you've heard these gunshots?
Yes, because we're out there almost every day because we
Right,
were
okay.
clearing the property.
It's a regular occurrence, like daily occurrence?
Well, no, that's been now for a few months, not so much. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't
It
know
comes
the
and goes.
exact, but I don't know the exact pattern, but we definitely, and we've been told by the neighbors that they hear that, so.
Any other questions?
How far will your house be set? You're across the road,
We're across the road and we're less than 200 feet from the road.
so your front yard's 200 feet back from the road?
Our actual house is.
Uh-huh, okay. You know how wide the road is over there?
Just a regular hard
Regular
surface.
two-lane road?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Our house faces the road.
Now, one more question.
Sure.
Now, she was, Ms. Thompson was saying that the closest house is 237 feet. Is she speaking of your residence?
No, because we haven't built, they didn't even present that that we were building across the way.
Okay.
You were notified of this hearing,
We were through the neighbors.
so you didn't get a,
No, we did not. Neither one of the residents on the new residents got.
We'll send all the notifications out to whatever's on the tax record, so there's possibility that the previous ownership, the tax records haven't changed to reflect the new ownership at this time.
okay. Great. Any other questions? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Anyone else like to give evidence in opposition at this time? If I could get anyone who wants to do that to come up now, and if we could go ahead and get you all up here, and that way Mr. King's not having to go back and forth. We can swear y'all all in at one time, one fell swoop, and it's done. As long as everybody can reach the Bible here, we'll do this. Snuggle in there. Can y'all do it?
Reach over there.
Ma'am? Okay. All right, you swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, thank y'all very much. And you, okay, again, let me say, thank you. Everyone, please get one of these, put your name on it. If you're not talking to me now, it'll be a great time to put your information on there. We need to know who you are. And the first one of you who would like to give evidence, well, please do at this time. Whoever wants to start, you may please come forward, give your name and your address.
My name is Chuck Murray, and I'm at 7302 Indian Trail, Fairview. Our property does connect with your property. I have pretty much the
Can you put
same.
the map back up, Mr. King, so we can see where these people's property
Yeah,
are?
I was going to ask for that. Good. I have pretty much the same concern. The noise. We moved down from Philadelphia back in July last year, and for the same reasons. I've retired. My wife's retired, and we just want to move into a nice, quiet setting. I have a question. Is this going to be resident? Is there going to be residents living there, or is it just going to be a barn?
The applicant is present, so that would be a question the applicant would
Okay,
need to answer.
Ms. Thompson, could you answer that question, please?
It's just gonna be a barn.
Okay, thank you.
It's just gonna be a barn.
So it's not a residence, it's
No
just a,
residence, no.
just, okay.
So the dogs are there by themselves through the night, I guess.
Ms. Thompson, could you address that question? Will the dogs be there by themselves
Yes,
at night? Thank you.
yes.
What happened here was, computers apparently go to sleep. And the computer went to sleep, so it's taking us a little bit to get that back up. But there it comes. That wasn't too bad, was it? It woke up. All right, could you, kind of tell us where your property is?
This way.
No, zoom.
Zoom in.
The other way. The property with the swimming pool and the garage, big garage here.
Okay,
No,
so
it's-
that
it
property,
goes all the way back.
you own both parcels there then?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying, the one
Yes.
behind? Could you pull that up where we can see what's going on back there, Mr. King, in the back, the building back there with all the vehicles? What is that building, sir?
That is my garage.
Okay, so you have, a business, a garage?
No business, no.
Okay, it's just a garage.
It's a garage workshop.
Okay.
My question is, I'm not sure where the footprint of the barn is gonna be. I know it's gonna be facing the road. How far back is it coming? 200?
Can you show him that drawing?
That's Mr. Jensen, Mr. Jensen, I'm sorry, Mr. King. I'll probably call you Mr. Jensen till I leave this board, so I'm sorry, it's 7 years I had Mr. Jensen here.
It starts right here. Here's probably about where your garage is. And then here's a little, she shows the property lines.
Let's ask him a question as soon as he gets where he can.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Murray, we have a question.
Mr. Question?
Yes.
Now, you say this is just like a personal garage.
Yes, it is.
Are these vehicles lined up all around the front here?
Vehicles?
What is
That's
that?
the 2010 aerial shot. That's not, there used to be a business there.
Okay, so that's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
those are vehicles sitting there, but they're not his. But that's,
Okay, they were there in 2010.
Okay,
When
okay.
the business was there.
No, it's
Okay.
it's a private home.
okay, I'm just curious.
So your lot's you have two lots, it's the L shape?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And Mr. King answered your question as to where the,
Yes.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Murray? Anything else you'd like to say, sir?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next person who would like to speak, please come forward, give your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name's Christine Hargett. I live at 7411 Indian Trail, Fairview Road, which on the map, over here. This property that he's pointing to there is our property.
Okay.
So we're kind of catty corner to them. My in-laws and my father-in-law will speak it in a minute. He owns across the road. We bought our land 17 years ago for the reason of investing in some property. My husband and I, we don't play the stock market. That land right there is basically our retirement. So, you know, with the way the market's gone the last little bit, property value's gone down. We bought that land, built a house, a single-use house for our kids to be there. To know and to say that we think that this is not going to impact the property value there is outside of what I would seem as reasonable for that area. The businesses that they're talking about, I'm not as familiar with some of them, but I know the one that's directly beside of it is a very small business. He has a van that he works out of his house, the glass business. It's not a business in the sake of what you would think of as a business that's a lot of traffic or anything like that. I'm not familiar with what's going on with the other property behind there, but there's not really true businesses per se there. To know too that there's not going to be anybody there at night when the dogs, we hear our neighbors. We like to have our windows open. We hear our neighbors now that are up the street at night sometimes. I cannot imagine what it's going to sound like with dogs. They do have to go outside. And you're going to hear them. I work from home. And and also too, we like to have our windows open. and to know that I'll be on conference calls or whatever and potentially hear the dogs. Because I can hear what's going on up the street, just because it's a rural area. So it will impact our quality of life there. It will impact our property value. Because someday we do hope to sell. I mean, that is our retirement there. The traffic on the road is fairly busy as it is now. It is a pretty populous road for traffic. There's a hill there where they're saying they're going to go. It's potentially going to be, there's a little bit of hill, there's potentially going to be some danger in that in and of itself, along with our driveway that's there. So we are adamantly against a true business, and this is a true business. They're not going to be there at night. They're going to walk away and leave it for the other people that are there to deal with, that have to live there all the time. And I'm pretty much there 7 days a week, almost all the time. So that's pretty much it.
Any questions?
I have a question, Ms. Thompson, if she could step back up.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You can be seated. Ms. Thompson?
Could you address the issue that everyone seems to be concerned about with no one being there at night to watch over the dogs, control the dogs, to watch over the property?
Yes.
How's that gonna be dealt with?
Well, and that's why we're going the extra steps to make it so soundproof, but we will have security cameras. We're not just gonna leave the dogs there. That's why window-wise, there will only be 4 windows. 2 on the other ends of the upstairs loft, and then 2 in the very front of the building. So there will be no windows in the back for sound to seep through. So the area where they will be kept is basically gonna be like a vault. It's steel doors, so the doors will not allow the noise to go through it. Can I address a couple of things that they had brought up?
Sure.
Just with the properties? The front next door neighbor with the window business, they actually set up business on my property. So it is kind of a nuisance because they park their vans out in the front and keep their windshields, and they have a shooting range on my land. So, you know, it's already kind of a nuisance. What I'm going to be proposing will be a beautiful barn with sod front entrance. It's not just going to be a business. You know, this is going to be, you know, what people consider a second home for their pets, you know, when they're having to travel and they can't be there to take care of them. So I'm not just going to leave them and let them bark. They will be locked up, secured in a very secure building with cameras, and they will not, you know, most dogs, if they play all day outside, they're not going to be barking, angry. They're going to be having fun, playing. I mean, you see your dog go to a dog park. Are dog parks real loud? They're playing, having a good time. They're not pinned up outside. So they're relaxed, they're having fun. They're going to be wiped out when they go into that kennel at night. They're going to be relaxed because there will be music playing in the building when we're not there to help soothe them. You know, we're taking all the extra steps to make sure the dogs are as comfortable as possible, because that's what I want to offer to my clients, that comfort, knowing that their dogs, even though they're not at home, they're in something like a home. So that's, you know, leaving them, they will be there by themselves, but it will be a very secure building that won't allow, you know, that noise or any pet to get out or anything like that.
Okay, one other question. Are the kennels, the type of kennel that you're speaking of, are there other kennels around in North Carolina that just leave the dogs there at night by themselves? Is that just a normal procedure for kennels?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And there is a horse boarding facility right down the road, not even half a mile down the road. So I feel like it's a good fit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, the next person who would like to speak in opposition, please come forward, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Susan Moore, and this is Raymond Jackson. It's 7226. It's this property right here.
Okay.
Which one is it?
It's the one behind the bottom right there.
And the horse boarding facility that she spoke of is not a horse boarding. Those people own those horses, and they live there. They live over that barn. It's a residence. And she's right. The neighbor who has the stuff on her land, he is a nuisance. But he does not work there from his home. He does windshields in cars, and he goes to the vehicle to replace that windshield. They do not bring cars in and out there. the whole property on this side that's not developed is leased for hunting. So during deer season, that property is leased to, I think, 6 guys. So there's 6 men back there hunting that property. You have hunters, you have 55 acres on Cunningham Lane that's leased for hunting. You have deer hunting all over out there. So during deer season, you hear a lot of shooting.
Well, I have a question then. The other lady that was up here said she was building a house straight across the road from it.
Mm-hmm.
So is
You
the
have-
hunting going away?
No, you have a 10-mile area that you come off Idlewild Road up at Hemby Bridge, you go Indian Trail Fairview around to Rocky River to Lawyers, Lawyers to Millgrove, and then Millgrove back to Idlewild. You have several acreages of 55, 75, a 10-mile circle there that's still kind of farmland and farms, you know, acreages, and people hunting that. So the hunting isn't going to go away. That's the property behind the people building a house.
Well, I've got to ask a question here because I figured out where this is. And your neighbor there, is it A1 Auto Glass?
Yes.
Okay, well then, he's not here, but Hank is my stepson from my ex-wife. And I don't have a real that big of a relationship with him and all, and I don't feel there's a conflict, but if the board feels there is, I'll recluse myself right now.
Well, you're saying you're related to someone that lives down the street that's not here.
Well, it borders the land there, and I mean, he's not here in opposition or for it, so, I mean,
Yeah, I don't see a conflict.
okay.
But if you have a kennel that will accommodate 26 dogs and they run loose during the day, how is that not going to be a noise problem? Dogs bark. That's what dogs do. And you can say the dogs are going to play and it's a good area, you know, a area conducive to them being quiet and playing. But you get yippy dogs or barking dogs that just bark, 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 and it ain't going to change them. And the neighbors are the ones that have to listen to it. They don't live there. And like the lady said, you know, you open your windows during the springtime and the fall when the weather's nice. During the day when you're home, you don't want to listen to 26 dogs. And it you know, when you start surrounding houses with businesses, you've got Hank there with his mess. You've got the little auto garage back
Well, he's not
right
here. That's
here.
my ex-brother-in-law that runs the Napa.
So you've got cars in and out,
Where's that now?
right, I'm not gonna push that.
About right where you had it.
It's right.
Yeah.
Right there?
Uh-huh.
And that's,
Napa?
what is that business?
He has a 2-bay garage where he works on cars.
Where's the entrance to that property?
The driveway.
The driveway comes down through there in front of our house and around to here.
So you share that driveway to get to your house?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
But you start just putting businesses in, and it does make the property value go down. As far as home values,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
One thing that we're in kind of a situation as, understand that your property owners feel that this is going to devalue your property, but you don't have any evidence to present to us.
would you want to
Did
live
it,
by 26?
ma'am, I understand what you're saying, I understand 100%, but we have to go by evidence that's presented to us. So we have no evidence presented to us to say that your property is going to be devalued by her business, and it's kind of a
Okay.
situation that we're dealing with.
I understand that, but again, forget the property to be valued. Would you want to live next door and be out in your yard with your grandchildren and be out in your yard having cookouts and have 26 dogs barking?
Ma'am, the only thing I can go with is the facts of findings that we have to
We're
go by.
adamantly
I
against
sympathize
it.
with you and your
And
thoughts and so forth.
we feel like it's gonna change our quality of living.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did anyone else get sworn in that hadn't spoke? If you could state your name and your address, please.
Wyatt Hargett, 3201, excuse me, wrong address. 15002 Castle Bridge Lane, Matthews.
Okay.
And I own the property adjoining the piece that we're talking about. Just to the right.
The wooded side?
Just to the right, yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. So just gonna be that one right there?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
About 8 or 10 years ago, I bought this piece of property with the intentions of possibly building a house on it. And I say possibly, I'll leave that at that. My son lives across the street, and this my daughter-in-law just spoke. We're getting up in age, and I was concerned that I may need to get closer to be taken care of as I grow older. And so I planned to purchase this piece of property to eventually build a retirement home or a home that I could live in right there near my son. My real concern is if they build this as they're proposing right on the property line in front of me, I'll be building a house looking out across this dog kennel. To me, that doesn't look very appealing. And it will definitely devalue the property that I was hoping to eventually build a house on in my retirement. That's my concern. Also, I'm not real happy with the idea if they put it on there to put it up on the front because it just makes the view out across there undesirable. Any questions?
Any questions?
So you said you own that piece of property,
Yes.
but you're wanting to purchase another piece of property?
No.
Okay.
No, I bought that piece of property with the intentions of building a home on it when I need some help from my son across the street.
Okay. All right. Anything further? Thank you, sir. Board, do you have any other questions you need to ask before we close the hearing? Anyone?
Well, I'd like to ask one.
Who do you need to ask?
The young lady here. What
If
is
you could
the
come forward, please.
what is the purpose of putting it over on the one side?
We were trying to go furthest away from all of the houses already there. And with that land and how it's shaped, it leaves plenty of room if they ever wanted to build on that property on the other side of me. And so that's why we went further on that side, because at this time there is nothing there. And there is nothing across the street. It's just woods. The house that they're building, it's actually in front of my next door neighbor's, that front house that connects. So it's woods and woods. And that's why we wanted to, like I said, we just wanted to try to, please everyone that's there. And that seemed like the best place to place down. But I have spoken to a land appraiser, and he's in Ballantyne, because I wanted, we had talked, and I wanted to make sure that my property would not, put any damper on anyone's property value. And with it being said, he said it only bring value to it, to actually go in and do it.
Do you have a
sorry.
Well, I just have his, well, he wouldn't do it because he said he'd have to go back. So he looked at the properties around. And
I'm sorry,
what they're
unfortunately,
saying
that's
is
hearsay
they-
evidence, so we
Okay.
can't accept that, but thank you. Is there any, I guess my question would be, is there anything preventing the potential of moving it back a little bit, away from the road into those woods some more, or?
Oh, no, sir. The only reason we went up that way was because there is a property at the back corner, and it doesn't show a house on there, but we walked the property, and there is a house back there.
Okay.
And I just didn't want to get too close to them with the fenced-in area.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And they will not be unattended outside. I don't want them to think it won't be all the dogs at once outside. It's a rotation, and they will always be attended by at least 2 people.
All right. Any
Question.
questions? Go ahead.
How many, I mean, will the dogs be outside all the time? And if so, like, how many dogs do you imagine being outside at any given time?
Oh, no, they will not be outside at all, not all the time. It will be mid-morning and mid-afternoon, and then one time just late at night. And it is 4 rows of kennels inside the building, and it will be 1 row out at a time. We will pair the dogs for ones that get along, you know, size-wise, play-wise, you know, and that way it will only be that section of the kennel out at one time. So it won't be, you know, it will be at max 10 dogs out at once.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did you get sworn? All right, last chance. Anybody else? I'm not gonna let you do it, okay? You swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you, sir. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Phil Kaufman. I live at 7305 Indian Trail, Fairview Road. And we are the couple that's building a house across the street.
Do we have that parcel that we can show that exact parcel? Is it? That'd be great, 'cause that might.
It's across the street. Right there. We have the extension.
Pull it down there a little bit.
The
Thank
line
you.
that's extended straight across the street.
Okay.
There it is.
So where on that property is the house?
Right about, right in here, right there.
Okay.
I'd like to speak to the point of the market value. I think it's very, very unreasonable even to require us to have scientific evidence that the market value would go down. I think I just have to ask myself, would I have bought that land if I knew there was a kennel across the street? 100% no. Market value goes down. Excuse me. So I think that we should not require, I know, again, with all due respect to you gentlemen and ma'am, that to require a scientific study to stop this project, to me that's unreasonable. Because I think if you gentlemen and ma'am would just ask yourself, do you want a kennel right across the street from your house when you were expecting total peace and quiet, basically, except for once in a while a black powder gun going off on the weekend? Would you want to buy there? Would your property go down? Because market value is a willing seller being willing to sell to a willing buyer. That's what market value is. So I really want to make that point, that ask yourselves, please, would you think that your property would go down in value? Thank you. That's all it is.
Any questions? Time I'm closing public hearing. Mr. Sturgis,
Yes?
could you address the question and the comments regarding evidence and explain why the things are the way they are, and we can't make decisions? I don't want this is our attorney. He's the guy that went to law school. And he keeps us from doing stuff we're not supposed to do, because we're just like you. We're citizens, and we just obey the law. And so if you could just explain the fact how our board operates. We're not like some boards that we just don't make decisions based on feelings. We have
No, I'll be glad to.
Thank you, sir.
The Board of Adjustment's what they call a quasi-judicial board, and so that's why it was sworn evidence, and they have to base their decision on the evidence that they hear today as to whether or not a special use permit is permitted or whether it meets the criteria to allow a special use permit. And as y'all probably know, the county, like many places, has what they call zoning ordinances. And this property zone, what was it, zoned R4, was it zoned? RA40. And most of y'all probably don't know what's allowed in R840. but there are a lot of things allowed in an R840 zoning. It's not like a subdivision where you have the zoning, but also you have all the covenants and restrictions that the builder puts on the lots when they build the subdivision. This is just flat zoned land, no overall building program for housing, and R840 allows a lot of type activities in it. And what the ordinance is set up to do is to say some things are allowed as a matter of right, which is like a home, but a lot of things are allowed if they meet the special use permit. And the dog kennel plus lots of other businesses are allowed. So a person who buys an R40, if they studied zoning law, they would see there are all sorts of things that can pop up beside them in just basic R4 or RA40 zoning. Now, the way this ordinance is set up, if it's something other than a house and other things that may have more of an impact, then they require a hearing like this so people can come down and present evidence as to whether or not this meets the requirements to allow a special use permit. And the requirements, they're legal requirements, and if they meet them, this board is obligated to give the special use permit. They cannot deny it. But the requirements are something like being in harmony with the neighborhood. That's why there have been questions and information as to what's around there. Are there other businesses around there? Where are their homes? What's the traffic on the road like? And so that is one of the considerations. The other considerations are, will the use materially endanger the public health? That's something they look at. Another consideration is impairment of property values. And we have hearings at times where someone will hire an appraiser and come in with a professional appraiser and say, this will or will not damage the future property values on it. And those are in general conformity with the land plan, which this will be because this is a use allowed in R40. So that's the way this ordinance and the ordinance in many counties and cities in North Carolina is set up. So this board now, based upon the evidence, will have to make a decision whether it meets these requirements for a special use. And I know one of the things they'll be considering especially is the concerns that have been raised by many of you, which is noise. That will relate to possibly the harmony issue. And of course, there's been testimony about her efforts to mitigate noise. So this board will consider all these facts and then make a legal decision based upon the ordinance that they're required to follow.
Thank you, sir. I just want y'all to hear that from somebody other than me, because it's a difficult sometimes job that we have when we have to do that. We have to make decisions based on evidence, and so when we make those decisions, sometimes people get upset. I don't know how we're going to go on this. I have no idea yet, but I just want y'all to know that we have to make our decision based on the evidence that we've received. At this time, I will say that there will be no other evidence presented. The hearing's closed, so sometimes people we'll start talking here in a minute, and sometimes you'll be wanting to go, wait a minute, I won't tell you, you can't. So sorry about that. You can't talk anymore. So board, at this time, I will open the floor for a motion for discussion.
Make a point.
You can make a point.
Okay. The thing that I'm looking at here is that our board, our staff, recommends that the Board of Adjustment approve the site plan and special use permit for the animal services boarding. It is in their opinion that all the circumstances that we've talked about have been met. It looks to me like you guys are making a recommendation.
I believe the one thing they did ask us to make sure we were certified on was the demonstrating that the proposed project was in harmony with the
Right.
surrounding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that recommendation, as you know, probably is not binding upon you, but is it information for you to consider.
Absolutely.
Right. But my point being is they have, all the stuff they have investigated is they're making a recommendation in favor of it. That's my point I'm speaking of.
Okay. Again, I ask, do we have a motion? This motion will be just for discussion, gentlemen, lady. We don't have to.
I'll make a motion we discuss.
I think we need a motion.
You can have some discussion.
Okay, we'll
general
talk about it. Let's
discussion,
have
and
general
then-
discussion, and then we can talk about a motion. Go ahead, you wanna discuss?
Where's the harmony?
Okay.
I mean, that's the evidence for y'all. I mean, it's a geographical area. I mean, I'm not for or against this, and I don't vote on it. I mean, you know, traditionally in dealing with the harmony analysis, that's why we have the aerial map, and you look geographically what's going on in this area. This is an area that is not purely residential. It's an area of mixed urban, you know, rural type environment that has some small businesses, has some residential, whether it is trending in a direction, that could be, but you have to deal with what's out there now on it. So, I mean, the best example, the best evidence in my view for you to consider whether it's in harmony or not harmony is the aerial photographs you were looking at and the reports of the people you know, testifying as to about what's going on out there. You know, the road level, the road traffic, the other businesses, the homes that are there, you know, deer hunting. I mean, all of those are the sort of things that y'all would analyze in harmony. And you also have to remember from a pure legal perspective that as a general rule, if a use is permitted in a zoning as a special use, it's generally in harmony from a general use perspective, but specifically when you look at that particular piece of property and the surrounding area, you can determine it is or isn't. But it almost creates a presumption, the zoning ordinance almost creates a presumption that this type of business can be in harmony in this type of zoning. So those are things for y'all to think about.
No, we can't do that. It is, the harmony question is generally the one that's the most difficult for us to answer because there's not 4 more dog kennels surrounding this property. If there were, it'd be a pretty clear-cut option. So, but the other things that are there, we have to determine how they harmonize with another thing. Any comments from this side?
I have a question.
You have a question.
If by being on this board, we sat and discussed another similar thing close to that, even though it wasn't discussed here tonight, can that be weighed in?
No.
No? Okay.
As I know you kind of gather knowledge living in the community and through the history of service on this board, but you have to kind of put blinders on and just make your decision on the evidence that you've heard tonight.
That's another thing that makes this job more difficult because you know things that you know, but you can't let them interfere with your decision.
Well,
Let's just, could we go through each one of the facts and findings and discuss it?
I think that's a good step. We'll look at findings of fact. Number 1. And I have to remind the board that we have to, I believe, Mr. Sturgis, we have to answer, these all have to be, we can't just check off 4 of these. All 5 have to be checked off, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
And you know, when they rewrote the ordinance, put some more meat on them. It doesn't change the 5 factors.
Right.
And if you have your zoning book, it's page 80-28. I guess that's how they're doing it.
The new zoning book or the old zoning book?
The new zoning book.
We haven't been supplied that yet.
I'm the only lucky one to have that?
Yep.
You want me just to read it, the factor, and then y'all talk about it, and then when you get through talking about it, just tell me to go to another one? Is that how you want to proceed?
I guess that would work. I have the finding of facts here.
But
I believe we all
I have a
them.
question. Who provided these?
I believe that was the applicant.
The findings of fact were added to the application, and the applicant put on there what they felt, how they were meeting those findings of fact.
So we have 5 findings of fact here and what the applicant's position is on those findings.
Okay, well, you may, where's,
Do you have that, sir?
let me look. I should.
Well, just like the one here.
Oh, right,
Well,
yes.
let's start with number 1.
Yep, no,
Okay.
Just like
that's
so.
fine. Y'all can just use that.
Can we use this and just start
Yep.
with number 1 and
Sure.
and we'll work our way down?
And that's the way the application is set up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, finding of fact number 1, the proposed use and development comply with all regulations and standards generally acceptable within the zoning district and specifically applicable to the particular type of special use. Mr. Sturgis, we all agree, I believe that is,
Yes.
that does. Number 2, the proposed development will not materially endanger the public health or safety. We have evidence that's been presented here regarding safety and public health. You all can discuss that however you need to.
Well, I don't see where that one was a problem.
I don't either.
Okay, anyone else have a problem with that one? Number 3, the proposed development will not substantially injure the value of abutting property or is a public necessity.
Seeing how we had no professional realtors or people like that there, we don't have a rebuttal on that.
Right.
So,
Anyone else? Number 4, this is it, yes.
this is it.
Number 4, the proposed development will be in harmony with the area in which it is located.
Okay, let's look at it from the standpoint, why would it not be in harmony?
I think
Because-
the only reason why it can't be is because dogs bark.
Because of the noise ordinance.
That's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah,
the noise.
me-
I know architecturally it's contained within the building, and I get that, and I know Quiet Rock and all that. But I'm struggling with when they're running outside, what that's gonna do. I don't know. That's the
Right.
thing, you don't know.
Well, we do know we have had evidence presented by the applicant stating she has done research, and part of it will be our staff's responsibility to ensure that those things are implemented, those sound barriers are implemented, as well as the outside buffering, those things. But like you said, there's only a certain level of that that's going to definitely.
Can we not set a rule that a certain amount of dogs go outside at one time?
Possibly. I mean, you're starting to get into a person's
Because, I mean, my
business.
neighbor has 3 dogs that's outside.
Mm-hmm. I see, and that's not an uncommon thing in a
Oh.
residential area for multiple dogs, that live on the street. Is there a leash law on this?
County doesn't have a leash.
Not in the county.
Yeah.
County doesn't have a leash law?
I have a question. Can we require that this facility be relocated from where it is on this piece of paper?
Yes, the board has full authority to work with the applicant as far as the location or any other conditions that they so do wish to impose on the property.
Can we pull that back up again, just out of curiosity? Is it asleep again?
Well,
And the reason I'm asking that is if it could be moved further back
Yeah,
and leave the wooded area around it as more of a buffer.
I believe the applicant entered evidence that there was a house back there, so it's,
Well, is the person here that lives in that house?
probably not.
Well, that person could have seen where it was and said, I'm just
I'm not
fine, and
worried
not
about it.
come.
The thing that I was looking at here is the trees are going to be taken out if this facility was to be moved back more to the middle.
That's what I'm
and-
thinking.
And let the trees, along with the buffer that we're talking about, kind of help dead the noise on it.
And even along the road front, if there was a buffer
Leave
left
the
there
trees
and
up
just
there,
a
yeah.
driveway.
Just move it back in kind of the middle of the property and take out only enough trees to enable the facility to be put in.
Right. The board can make adjustments to that if we want to, and make that our requirement. And if the applicant doesn't want to do that, then
Are the trees in the front, have they already been removed or are they still there?
I believe they're still there.
They're still there.
We can ask questions.
We can ask questions now.
I got you.
We can ask staff questions if we want to. Well, there's clearly a lot of trees here,
Yeah.
a whole lot of trees.
So even if we go to the middle, we're gonna be right beside that guy's garage.
Well, the whole thing is, the way I see it, we're set here, our biggest task here is to appease people, the neighbors, because there's been no evidence presented saying that, in other words, the kennel meets the ordinances, is that correct? It meets the land zoning.
Right.
There's been no evidence presented that says it's not in harmony. There's been no evidence that says it threatens the land value, correct?
Well, that's for this board to determine.
Well, I'm just saying, we're just following. So, our biggest challenge is to protect or appease the people around it. So the only way I see to do that would be require it moved sort of in the middle of this piece of property, as opposed to one side or the other.
The property is, basically, I see is 273 feet, basically, looks to me like. Is that a fair judgment across?
Yeah, because the front's a little longer, but
Front's
it's
a little
because
longer
it's
because of the
at an angle.
But basically, it's 273 feet. My question is, are we going to, what are we gonna gain by moving it? I'm just asking this, guys, are we gonna gain a whole lot of space over there? on the
Personally, I
other
don't
side?
think we're gonna gain anything.
I don't think there's nothing to gain from moving. I'm just asking, is there anything to gain from moving? Okay, right now, you might gain, I have no idea, but
The-
20 feet?
Not listening to
Well,
very
the front part, if you went to a driveway and left some wooded buffer in that part, that would definitely help the folks building across the street.
But it would help as far as the view of the building, but is
The
it gonna
view.
stop a dog barking? If you hear dogs barking or some trees, it might buffer them a little bit if they're thick. But if it's that thick, is anybody even gonna see that there's a business there? I guess I'm saying, I don't know. This is a tough one, guys, I know.
I know, toughest one I've seen.
I mean, and there's no description of the fence. I don't know that if a cyclone fencing, whatever
Right.
the fencing, I know that's not, the sound's just gonna flood out, like,
Right.
acoustically, if there was a better way to, contain that, but still, it's there.
You go by evidence shown, we'll be here all
Yeah,
night.
that's all we can do.
Well, there's a hedge on either side of the
There's a
fenced-in
6-foot
area.
hedge on each side of the fence.
But that's already shown as,
Privacy hedge, right, yeah.
right, which presumably affects sound too.
Again, okay. Item number 4, number 4 is finding a fact that the proposed development be in harmony. Are we prepared to move on to 5, or do we need to continue to discuss that one? As far as the reality, is it in harmony? We can talk about. Are we good with this one, or do we need to continue to talk about?
According to that,
What
what was
would
been
be our-
presented to us.
What would we put that it wasn't?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
what
fine.
is our fact that it is in harmony? Other than the fact it's allowed on the zoning.
The only real evidence we have that it's not in harmony is the dogs barking, and we have no way to tell what that noise level is gonna be and how many at one time, so.
Yeah.
We don't have any evidence, what does that sound like with the dogs? Whatever dogs bark.
Well, there was evidence about that the building,
Yeah.
if they're in the
Right.
building,
That's right.
it's going to be 55 decibels or so, which is a normal voice talking.
Right.
There wasn't evidence as to what the volume is outside, but
Right.
it's behind the building.
Right.
There are hedges on either side.
The evidence
There-
was presented that there's 26 kennels, a maximum 2 dogs, a maximum of 52 dogs at any time. There were 4 runs, so divide 52 by 4, only 1 run will be out of time. The maximum would be then what? What is 52 divided by 4? Anybody?
Well,
ready to do that?
13 dogs at one
13
time.
dogs at one time would be the maximum out. at
And there
one
would be
time, basically.
attendance with the dogs at the
And
time.
attendance with the dogs while they're outside.
That's what the evidence was.
That's the only evidence we have.
Yeah.
What's 13
that's-
dogs sound like barking if they get mad and bark?
But the thing we have to look at too is the person requesting the variance is they're doing everything they possibly can to try to be in harmony with it. If they're putting forth every effort that they can do. So by looking at it from my point of view is, looking at the evidence we've got, yes, it is in harmony.
I agree.
Okay. Number 5, the proposed development be in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. I don't see anything saying it's not gonna be in conformity. Does anybody?
That's good.
Okay, we have the 5 findings of fact, and it seems that all of us, well, at different variances here, we have to make a decision based on the evidence that was presented. So at this time, once again, I'll ask, is there a motion?
Going with the evidence we're presenting, I'm gonna have to make a motion that we accept.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
What,
How about the placement of it? Are we gonna leave that as it is?
That's something we can discuss at this time. If that's,
I would still recommend moving it back, away from the front of the property line, moving it back toward the middle. And you're right, it might not be gaining that much, but at least
We're trying.
we're
You wanna
trying
move
to
it
do
back
everything we can.
into the middle.
That's correct.
The
Trying to centrally locate right in the middle of the property.
the front part would need to be left a wooded buffer,
Uh-huh.
and it needs to be pulled up toward the middle off of the person on the right's property line.
All right, I think,
Mr. King, are there any
Mr. King.
restrictions in regard to floodplains or wetlands or anything that would affect the placement of this?
No, sir.
we're gonna need to, I guess we're gonna have to give some type of measurement here, I assume. We can't just say move it back into the middle.
Okay, well then, you're 844 feet on the top side. Right, so on that top side is that top side there is 844 feet.
Right.
So
This is 6 foot, I
if you
think, now.
divide that by 2, yeah, but you still got the same line back there. But if you divide the 844 by 2, that would be 422, correct? Correct?
You're right.
Okay, if the center of the building were required in the middle,
Well, you have to understand something. This is the big section right here. That's the building. It's tiny.
Yeah, the run is
This
what
is
the
the
okay.
run. I
fenced
think.
area.
yeah, but if you brought that back to where the run, which would be where the noise would be, had to be right in the center.
Is maybe talking about what you're talking about, the way to at least explain it for purposes of if a special use permit is granted, would it be easier to say, move the drawled facility like, 15 feet? Is that, which is north? Is north, Mr. King, you know which way north is on this?
North would be going towards the top of the map.
Going towards where?
If you left it that, north should be to the left. No, that would be,
Is north straight up across the road?
This is north. This is gonna be your east.
I can't tell which is north from you. I can't see far enough. Is that the angled area or the flat area?
So this would be the northern part of the property right here.
Okay, great. That makes it easy.
Yeah.
And just for purposes of explaining something that go in a permit, I mean, if you would say, if you got, the simplest way to do it may be to say the, overall facility, consisting of the parking lot, building, and fenced area, would be moved approximately, 20 feet, 30 feet to the west, and, 10 feet, 15 feet to the south. It kind of gets it more in the center, and it's a translatable, location, I would think, as a possible way to explain it if you want to move the stuff. Because obviously, when you move the building, the driveway moves, everything moves in unison.
I mean, and not knowing the soil conditions or the topo, we might wanna just kinda leave it a little bit loosey-goosey so that the designer, the civil, whatever, can
That would be your options?
play with it.
Spoken from the architect.
How would it do to word it to leave a 50-foot buffer of the road and just work it out from there?
To the building?
well,
In
what
front of the
if
building.
all right, what if we done this?
Well, I think it's already more than 50 feet.
No, he said leave a 50-foot buffer.
A buffer of woods,
Of the woods,
wooded area.
Not just off the road, but
Yeah.
the existing tree line.
Yeah. Leave the existing tree line 50 feet off the road line and move everything back and start, right now, where their measurements are starting in this property line here at the road, that would move back 50 feet and everything would start from that point. And that would leave approximately a 50-foot buffer at the front.
So just move everything back 50 feet. That's a simple enough explanation to me.
And then up about, what would you say, 50 feet?
273 feet. So that's center line. 50 feet back toward the 844.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
done that and then moved it off of that lower property line, another 50 feet up toward the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
80, 80.
So basically, if
Yeah.
you would come in here, right across here with the 50-foot buffer, and this whole facility would move back then away from the road.
Okay,
Are we
that
gonna
sounds fine.
continue- are
So
we
you're
gonna-
saying move the whole facility back 50 feet to the south, approximately. So we'll say approximately because of the considerations that Jennifer mentioned. And then move it to the west approximately, y'all saying 50 feet again?
Yeah, so you're 30 foot off that line now. So if we made it, if we said
It'd be
keep
80
it
feet.
75 feet off,
Yeah. Then you could leave a buffer all the way around it,
right?
along with the hedge that they're showing here. So basically, it would be enclosed in a natural buffered area.
Right.
Wooded area.
Wooded
My
area, that's correct.
question is, are we gonna allow them to have any visibility from the road here? What's the front gonna look like? The whole area up there is gonna have to, the wood's gonna, or is there gonna be a pathway other than the driveway through these thick woods to show the world that it's there?
Well, if it's a kennel and you put a sign out front, what's the advantage of?
My recommendation would be just to have the driveways going in.
Okay.
And that would hopefully appease the neighbors that will be more of a buffer.
Okay.
And just have a driveway coming
Okay.
in.
Well, it's a double driveway now.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, we're talking 50 feet, right? We want to move it 50 feet
Off the road, back from that
back
front line, yeah.
and 50 feet
To the west.
to the west. 50 feet south, 50 feet west. Is that
We
right?
need to add the
So the
words approximately, I would say.
Approximately for the
Yeah,
architect. to work out.
approximately.
Okay.
So the setback off this lower property line would now be 80 feet.
80 feet.
Uh-huh.
And the setback on the front, well, this actually don't show the setback.
It does, it's got a 40-foot front setback.
40 foot, so we're
It'll
gonna
be
make
90
it
feet.
90.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And we're gonna require,
Screening in the front of the trees are removed.
now let's decide how thick that screening's gonna be. Cause if you're moving everything back,
Looks to me like
I would recommend just leave it natural as it is,
yeah,
and let
Okay.
that be the screening itself.
So we're not gonna allow her to have the landscaped area anywhere.
well, if she puts it in the middle of the, if she builds it here in the middle of the trees, what would be the advantage one way or the other of doing the landscaping if you're already in the middle of a natural
I'm just saying.
buffer?
Mr. King, is the sign ordinance allow a sign at the street?
That's something that we'll have to look at. I'm not sure exactly what it says as far as what type of signage is allowed, because it is in a RA zoning district, so it would be determined on what's allowed in the RA zoning for the signage.
That's a pretty important question. Is that something we can look in the ordinance and figure out, or is it? Yeah, I got one. You probably can find it faster than I can.
While we're doing that, can we have a 5-minute break?
I assume the sign ordinance is in the,
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess for, while he looks for that.
Okay.
We're actually doing a text amendment on this right now, so let's just tell them what it's basically, you get 0.2 square foot for every linear foot of road frontage, but you got 200 something foot of road frontage. Right.
so what is that multiply out to?
And you know, size is not a big thing. When I was with Matthews prior, I mean, sign questions were a dozen a day. The county, you might get one a week if they're.
All right, I dropped me.
Come all the way over to me.
65 square foot.
Which is ever small, may not exceed, just a small.
Right.
Right, oh, greater.
Yeah. Well, and the thing of it is, we're getting ready to do a text amendment
Oh,
right
but
now.
I can't exceed it.
Right. This text amendment, we said that up waves large residential setting. So
So we're reducing that. We're going to keep it at 32 square foot because it's a resident. This is probably 4 by 8, right? No. Yeah, this is basically about the same size state or and that's just the common area. That's not the mining. It's actually yeah, the heights. And we the other thing we went into the regulations is that the horizontal plane, it's got to be greater than so you couldn't take and turn it this way. We can haul that way. Where you're not. Yeah, the whole. Well, yeah, you know that when you read the statute on it, it says the Board of Adjustment has
She's full thing.
That's right.
modify the request.
But the rest of them are.
We can take that fixed up. All right, board, we'll go back into session at this time. I have Mr. Jensen or Mr. Sturgis or Mr. King one, tell us what you just figured out with regard to the sign ordinance.
For residential, for non-residential use in a residential district, it'll allow, it's got a calculation that you figure out the square footage, and it's based on the linear foot. However, staff is working on a text amendment right now to that particular section. So we do know that they would be allowed to have at least a 32 square foot sign when the text amendment goes through town or county council and is amended.
So at this time,
it looks like the calculation would be potentially 65 square foot. But with it being residential in nature, that's one of the things that staff was looking for, because the ordinance kind of allows greater amount. And
I
so-
just wanted to clarify that the current wasn't smaller, because I didn't want to make assumptions that it was going to become bigger and it not become bigger, because the county could decide they don't like your text amendment. But your text amendment's only going to make it smaller, not make it
bigger. That's correct.
So right now, it could be, you think, up to 65 square foot, but the smallest
would be 32.
32 square feet. Okay. Does that answer everybody's question regarding that?
So you're saying 32 square feet, 4 times 8, 4 foot times 8 feet is 32?
So 4x8 sign would be allowed.
Be about the same size as the tabletop.
4x8 sheet of plywood.
Yeah.
Size sign. Okay, that's a pretty big sign.
Pretty big sign.
All right. So we've talked about, I'm just gonna clarify everything. We're gonna leave 50 feet screen in the front of the existing trees. Correct? Approximately, because of where the building ends up being, we can't right?
But is it more accurate to say we've got to move the facility back 50 feet?
Well, we're gonna move it back, that's fine, but we can't move it back and let them just leave that landscaped area up there. We've gotta make sure we clarify that they can't take the trees out, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving the building back approximately 50 feet, moving it west approximately 50 feet. Again, approximately, there's some levity there with regards to design. We're gonna leave 50 feet of landscape of the current tree screening in the front, with the exception being the driveways. Obviously, you can't have trees in the driveway. Is there anything further we need to add to that?
Well, just the way the new ordinance is written, it seems awkward to me, but you're supposed to have your findings of fact in your motion these days.
Okay.
And y'all have kind of articulated the findings of fact as to the 5 elements. I would just say
With the 5 finding of facts, we've done that, I think, right? Are you
Okay, and
good?
just say that's part of your motion.
Part of the motion is the discussion we've had with regard to the finding of facts. Is that good? With regarding of item number 4, can we slide that in and say, in order to reach the harmony agreement, we
made these changes.
we amend the petition to require the 50-foot
Right.
back, 50 foot west,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
remaining trees remain 50 feet in front. So you okay with adding that to your motion?
Yes.
You okay with the second on that? Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries as amended. Any other items to come before the board? Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Gentlemen?